Ooh, this Rachel Zegler, do you remember her Disney's Snow White? Total train wreck. Total disaster. She was just sort of the epitome of that elite, annoying young person. She's 20 something. I guess I can't call her a millennial. She's whatever the other generation is. She's the 20 something ingenue from New Jersey that really should have stayed as the star of her High School Musical rather than trying to break it into the big leagues, because she has cost a lot of people a lot of money. And apparently she's sort of feeling the heat right now. We've talked a lot about Snow White, right? And what a train wreck that thing was. I mean, she just cost the company so much money. And also, I would say she also cost the legacy of that movie a lot in terms of its reputation. But she was out from the get-go talking about how much she hated the movie. It's like, for goodness sakes, then why are you doing a remake of it? You ought to tell us how much you love it. Instead, we got this.
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no Prince, or a different kind of Prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Yeah, it's Hollywood, baby. And when you basically insult the movie that you're making, when you get uber political, as this young woman did, and you have a lousy script and lousy music, and you're not such a talented actor yourself, Rachel, well, what do you wind up with? A massive loss. So this is incredible. I mean, it costs somewhere around $410 million to make this thing, and they just haven't been able to make the money even on the international sales. So it's resulting in a loss thus far of $115 million, with losses projected to actually equal somewhere around $200 million due to lower than expected box office returns and additional expenses. So Rachel is apparently finally feeling the heat. Rachel's like, oh my gosh. And so she had to go see a psychologist, and she had to get some anxiety medicine to apparently deal with all of this. And so this is the new headline. The New York Post did a story on it today. Rachel Zegler reveals psychiatrist anxiety meds actually helped her deal with the Snow White backlash. It's amazing because, if you listen to Rachel, there was no backlash. She was talking about how great the movie was. She was celebrating that she had the #1 movie in the world. And we're all like, really? Like, are you getting that delusional? Because it's definitely not the #1 movie in the world. I went to the movie because, I have 3 kids, and they somehow convinced me to see this. And I'm not sure who was more bored, my kids or me or the other kids in the theater. I mean, there were like popcorn fights breaking out everywhere because nobody liked this movie. It was unbelievably bad. I sat through it. I couldn't believe how bad it was. It was so trite. There was no tension or any kind of chemistry between any of the actors. The music could have been written by AI. It was bad, okay? So bad that Disney learned its lesson. It decided no more remakes. They were going to do a Tangled remake, Rapunzel, let down your hair. That got killed as a result of this. So Rachel Zegler finally seemed to recognize that her film did not do well. And so you'd think, okay, well, she's going to own up to that in some way. But not really. She said she had to go on anxiety medicine, and she had to deal with her mindset, etc. Now, this was funny because she's lamenting all of this to the media and complaining about this. And then, and so clearly the victim, right? Like ever the victim. But then she had this little number. She said, quote, "I think a victim mindset is a choice, and I don't choose it. I also don't choose nastiness in the face of it. I don't choose negativity in the face of it. I choose positivity and light and happiness. Gosh, she sounds just like Snow White. Was that like scripted or something? And I do believe at times happiness is absolutely a choice. And every day I wake up and I think I'm very lucky to live the life I live. Okay, well, at least the counseling is doing something for her, right? I'm telling you, the world is in part what you make it. And I'm not, I'm not disparaging or somehow not taking seriously enough that people do have chemical imbalances, and that's very challenging, and you need to deal with that, and should deal with that. But there was a study that came out recently, and it was talking about happiness. And overwhelmingly, what did you see? Conservatives were much, much happier than Democrats. And someone said to me, well, why do you think that is? And I said, I think it's in part because maybe we have religion in our life, and maybe religion is always teaching us to reinforce in ourselves what's good. For example, knowing that God loves you no matter what, I think is a very powerful thing, because when the chips are down and your Snow White hit goes nowhere and costs the company a lot of money, and people are making fun of you on the internet, it's really important to know that you are still loved, right? And that's where I think a lot of conservatives have it all over Dems, because they are churchgoers and they do believe in something bigger than themselves. And I'm not telling you what you have to believe in, but that spiritual feeling and appreciation for the world being bigger than just you is pretty darn important. And I'm not so sure Rachel quite ever got that. I would say the network itself, right, is being forced to come to some really challenging decisions. There's talk of maybe ABC getting sold off. I know that Bob is shooting that down, but it's still real out there. I think if he could get the right price, he would take it. They're not going to be able to make enough money. I mean, maybe they keep ESPN, right, because sports is something, but they're just not going to be able to grow those businesses, given that they're stuck with those cable challenges, and given that so much has changed. Look, I'm over here. It's amazing what we can do over here. So she's saying that the stress really got to her, woe is me kind of thing. And I would just say, listen, Rachel, you know what? The stress is getting to the people who have lost their jobs. Think about that for a second, because there are hundreds of job losses that are happening because you made some really big mistakes. And it wasn't just you. I would say, the director is to blame as well. The rest of the cast, management, marketing, etc. They should have probably put a tighter leash on her. Remember these tweets that she was putting out about Palestine when she was promoting her trailer? That immediately backfired. And so she was politicizing something from the get-go. And it was challenging, right? Given that Gal Gadot was from Israel. And so as a result of that, they had to rein in all of the tours that they were going to do, and they couldn't walk the red carpets, etc., because they were concerned about security. So she really did cost the network and the company a lot of money, and had no real appreciation or understanding of this. The guy who was the director, do you remember his son coming out? And he actually talked about this, and he was like this spoiled little princess, basically, right? Who just didn't get that there was so much riding on this, instead wanted to send off her political tweets. I wonder if he was trying to deflect some of the attention away from his dad, because I don't think his dad did such a bang-up job, being honest, in terms of the production of this movie. The script was lousy. The script writers were terrible. I mean, just terrible. And they all had their woke thing going on. And now, it's coming down on Rachel, who hits rock bottom here, needs to see somebody and get special treatment. But once again, she seems to be missing the forest for the trees, because the stress may have gotten her, but it's actually important to think about what it meant for the rest of the organization. And then I would just leave you with this thought that, life is stressful, right? And how do you get through those stressful times? I think one of the best ways, really and truly, to get through all of that when you hit rock bottom is to have something more in life, whether it's your family, whether it's God. Hopefully it's both, because that really gives you the strength and the power to persevere and to always look at the glass as half full. My dad taught me that right here in this house when I was a little girl. This is the house I came home to as soon as I was born. There's been some renovations along the way, but I'm sitting in what was once our kitchen. It was really 1970s red. And my dad, we had this wood table, and he would fill the glass with water, and he'd say to me, okay, Trish, is it half full or half empty? And I'd look and I'd say, half full. And he said, good answer, honey. Good answer, right? Like, have a positive outlook. It'll get you far. I have a positive outlook for sure on the market. I want you to share that positive outlook. I want you to go to 76 Research, use my code word dollar. This is my company. We just put out a note last night. We put out a lot of information with a lot of stock picks. Go there, check it out. Important stuff to do. Remember how successful, this is the positive outlook. Think about it. We started from nothing. I literally, like, just, Leslie be like, Trish, the mic's not working today. I mean, that may be happening a little bit right now because I don't even have a mic stand with me. This is kind of crazy because we're doing this ad hoc here from the parents' house. But we started this show and I didn't have any followers and I just started coming on here live. I've gotten to know so many of you. So thank you for all your support and patronage and how much you've pushed this show. It's just amazing. And I guess it was good timing, right? It was good timing because all of a sudden people were turning away from the mainstream media and they were craving something different. And I never understood YouTube, right? Like that was so, I thought, well, you'd have to be there in your parents' basement. I'm like nearly in my parents' basement, right? I'm in my parents' family room. There you go. So like a real YouTuber, if I took it upstairs to the childhood bedroom, I'd really have this medium conquered. Anyway, it's all about, I think, that positive outlook in life and really believing that you can do something and persevering. I mean, it's sort of a lesson I've had to learn throughout because, for all the successes I've had, there have been like 10 failures, like multiple failures. And nobody ever tells you about the failures. You never hear about all those. All the times you strike out, they only see the wins. But believe me, I have struck out quite a bit along the way. I always tell my kids that, when they lose a game and they lose a race, I'm like, you actually learn more. You learn more from those losses because it's your ability to pick yourself back up and recover that gets you much further in life. If you're somebody who just wallows in that loss, a la the woman we were just talking about, you don't learn from that. You won't be bigger. You won't grow stronger. You won't be better. Quick shout out again for one of our sponsors. Let me make sure we have our camera on as I do this. This is American Heart for Gold. You can go to trishlovesgold.com. You can get up to $15,000 in free silver. 1-844-495-1115. You can text Trish to 65532. Again, we appreciate everything they do right here on the show to make this possible, coming to you for free every day. It is great to have you all here. I'll tell you, I'm going to go enjoy my day, maybe hit the beach, okay? Because it's hot. We'll be checking back in tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have an update on that New York election and much more to go. Anyway, good stuff ahead. Winning. We like that.